Hey everyone, it's the Phoam Ranger here, another episode of Phoam Ranger Sports. It's been quite an exciting 12 hours for Bronco Nation, especially for those who follow Boise State football, because last night at 7:30, the Pac-12 Conference dropped the schedules for 26 for football, including Boise State. So again, the four non-con games were already confirmed, but the dates are now set. 9-5 at Oregon, 9-12 versus Memphis, 9-19 versus South Dakota, 9-26 Western Michigan. But last night, what dropped was the conference slate, which starts off with hosting Utah State on October 3rd. Road game at Fresno State, 10-10. At Wazoo on 24th. I mean, there's a bye between the Fresno State and Washington State games. Then, for first time program history, I think we host Texas State on Halloween. So, first time in years, Bronco football will be on the blue for Halloween. So, if you have any fun costumes, better start planning now for this season. Then on November 7th, they'll play Colorado State. Then they host Oregon State on the 14th. And their senior game will be against San Diego State on the 21st. And the 28th is going to be a flex game. Meaning that the game be determined on the 21st. Which is something new that very few conferences really do. Again, the Pac-12 decided this was the best course of action since we only got 7 football playing members. And so, which means that we'll play a conference team again. And it sounds like it was cited that Boise State will be on the road for that one. It'll be up to the conference's decision about that to try to have the conference be put into the best possible situation for the CFP. Because if, say, Boise State, again, they host Utah State on October 3rd, 10-3. If Utah State is among the top in the conference, the Broncos may play on the road there in order to bolster its standings and its spot for potentially a CFP berth, especially depending upon what Tulsa, Tulane, GMU, and other teams from other conferences are doing up to that point. Or it could also play at Texas State. You know, it just depends on what the situation is. I mean, yeah, it's a little interesting of a flex in order to try to essentially rig or to put the Pac-12 a bit of a leg up on the other G6 conferences. It's nothing that hasn't been done before. I mean, the SEC, what they do is they have essentially their favorite Bama and Auburn as well. Before the Iron Bowl, they are contractually obligated as per SEC conference rules to play an FCS opponent before the Iron Bowl, which is the week of the 28th. So it's not a novel idea for a conference to do scheduling rules to bolster their conference's standings and their team standings when it comes to like BCS rankings or CFP rankings, especially when there's potentially a CFP berth on the line. And what's also announced that the conference championship game at 26 will be hosted at a conference college site. It'll be played at the highest ranked opponent's stadium. That game will be on Friday, December 4th. It'll be the first Friday of December, which may be competing with the Mountain West. And that game will be on CBS. Not Fox, as we have been accustomed to recently, but CBS. It was also mentioned that there might be some non-traditional games played, that each team will play at least one. I mean, Texas State probably will have multiple, or a few maybe, because high school football is big in Texas, so Texas State is not going to want to play a Friday night home game which would interfere with their high school football. So yeah, so they're definitely not going to play Friday night home games. Their home games are either going to be Saturdays or Thursdays. Boise State might play a Thursday night game or Friday night game. But it was also mentioned that there will be Pac-12 after dark again. Though that might be late in the season with like a 7 p.m. tip-off or kickoff. Because the later again the season, the sooner the sun starts setting, the sooner it becomes dark. So I'd say maybe like 11:14, maybe Halloween against Texas State. That might be a Pac-12 after dark game. It might get dark early enough in that game that could be considered Pac-12 after dark with like a 7, maybe 7:30 p.m. tip-off or kickoff, I should say. I'm still thinking about basketball, but yeah, like a 7:30 p.m. kickoff would probably be dark enough for it to qualify as a Pac-12 after dark game, but especially the Oregon State or San Diego State home games, those could also potentially be Pac-12 after dark games. We kick off at either 7:30 p.m. or 8 p.m. I doubt there's going to be many 8 p.m. kickoffs this year. I think Pac-12 is going to want to stay in like 7:30 p.m. kickoff range. Because as us Broncos know, when we're at ESPN, we would have like 8:30 p.m. kickoff slated times, but with slides, some of those were like 8:45, 9 p.m. So I highly doubt the Pac-12 is going to want to have that happen. So I think a lot of the Pac-12 at dark games are going to be scheduled for like 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. kickoffs with slides that could get to maybe 8 o'clock at worst. But I definitely don't believe that many teams are going to want, or the conference is going to want to have like 8:15 p.m. kickoffs. I highly doubt that that's going to happen. And in other news for Bronco Nation, at 10 a.m. just this morning, at the top of this hour, there was a joint press conference that streamed live on KTVB.com with Governor Brad Little, Jeramiah Dickey, and the Interim Vice President of Boise State, and University of Idaho's President and AD, along with Joe Vandal and Buster Bronco, for a joint announcement, and was announced that on 9/6/2031, the Vandals will be coming back to Boise to play on the blue for the first time since 2010. And this will also be the first time the two teams will be playing for the Battle of Idaho, a historic rivalry, playing also for the Governor's Cup since 2010 as well. So this will probably be the rekindling of that old rivalry. I myself am excited for it. I mean, sure, there are some fans that probably like, why the Vandals again? After so many years, why the Vandals? But again, I think this makes a lot of sense. Again, Boise State really hasn't really had much of rivalries since the series against the Vandals was just continuing in 2010. I mean, sure, we have Fresno State, that's the lone bona fide one. Yes, Nevada technically has been more of a traditional rivalry, but their biggest wins against the Broncos came like 2010 and 2023. Again, 2010 was, with the back and forth game with Kellen Moore's team squandering a big lead in the second half that Nevada got back into. Then, of course, there was the field goal kicking issues because of the pathetic high school level field goals that Nevada has at their home stadium. If they're real regulation college ones, the first kick was good. The first kick was definitely good. Then again, 23, that was during the Avalos era. That was the last time Nevada beat us. Again, we beat them last year. And outside those two, and maybe 21 as well, I think they beat us. But other than those 2 or 3 games, Boise State has pretty much dominated the series since the 2000s. I mean, yeah, there were some close games as well in the early or mid-2000s with Colin Kaepernick as well. But other than that, Boise State has pretty much licked the crap out of the University of Nevada, Reno. So that's not much of a rivalry anymore. and I myself don't really foresee too many times in the upcoming future where the Broncos and the Wolfpack are going to be competing against each other in non-conference play. I think Boise State will probably look for better competition. Try and take on more upper echelon G6 schools from other conferences like the Mountain West, maybe like UNLV again, or maybe New Mexico. If New Mexico keeps playing well, they could be contender for the Mountain West going forward. Maybe more games against like Tulsa, Tulane, Memphis, App State, maybe SEC games or maybe MAC games. Yeah, but I highly doubt the Broncos going to want to play Nevada if they're more abysmal. And yeah, Jeff Choate being their head coach might help fuel that fire a bit since he is a former Bronco. Especially a coach, he was a little miffed at Boise State for passing over him when the head coaching position was open twice. So he has some real hard feelings about Boise State. He has made that pretty well known. So, that could be a key point that maybe that rivalry could continue, and the series may continue down the road. But I don't really see it happening all that often for it to continue being an official traditional rivalry. Same thing with Hawaii. That's another traditional rivalry, but ever since 2007 when they beat us, the last time they beat us, we've pretty much licked them as well, whipped them in a lot of games too. Clear and decisive 2019 conference title game with the Broncos win on the blue. Yeah, some of the games on the Big Island have been a little wacky and probably closer than they should have been, but overall Boise State since 07 has dominated that series. And again, with how the Mountain West scheduling was, there were some years where we didn't play Hawaii for 2 years, and there were 2 years where we did play them. And again, going forward, I don't think you're going to really see too many instances of Broncos versus the Rainbow Warriors playing, unless the Broncos are looking to get an extra game in the season. Because to play at Hawaii, you're eligible for either an extra bye week or you get to play an additional game. So I think those are the only two reasons why the Broncos would want to play Hawaii in the future. Is either to get the ability to play an additional game in the season or to get an additional bye week for having to travel out to Hawaii. So right now we only have really one bona fide true rival in Fresno. We could get, Button Rivalry is San Diego State. That's been back and forth. That's been a fun series, and that one is going to continue in Pac-12 play, so that's become more and more of a rivalry. And Wazoo could also become a rivalry as well. There's been talks of maybe making it like a Snake River rivalry, since both schools are pretty close geographically, and again, both are connected by the Snake River, so that could become a Snake River rivalry. Yeah, but it's important we get this rivalry game back to the Idaho game. Yes, they're FCS, but still, I think you get much better bang for your buck if you're Boise State scheduling the dog-ass Vandals. Because, again, they're in-state, so you don't have to pay as much as you would have to pay like a Portland State, Eastern Washington, or Tennessee Martin, North Dakota State, South Dakota, who are playing this year. Because if they come out of state, that significantly increases the amount you have to pay them for their travel fees and their travel costs and all that stuff. Versus if it's more in-state, that's less you got to pay, theoretically. Yeah, they still have travel, but again, it's probably easier if they're in-state versus having to cross state lines and flying. Stuff like that. It'll also be easier to sell tickets because there's a pretty good population of Dog-ass Vandal fans here in the Treasure Valley. So that tailgate 9-6-31 against the Vandals is going to be electric. You're going to have a tough time finding any open spots for that one. Same through with seats as well. You know, because again, both fan bases are pretty passionate about their programs, especially again since there's a good contingent of DAV fans in Trish Valley. They're going to want to get tickets as much as they can and as soon as they can. Again, Bronco Nation is also going to show up, hopefully show up pretty big for this game, and it's going to create an electric atmosphere as well. Because, I mean, I think the most electric atmosphere in terms of with fan participation from the other team was New Mexico, because I think it was either New Mexico or UNLV. I think it was probably more New Mexico. As they brought a good contingent of fans, they were loud the whole game, and it made that atmosphere, that game, even more electric. So, yeah, so I do believe that this is going to make 9-6-31 a much more electric and enthusiastic game versus other games in which we play an FCS opponent. So, yeah, so again, that's what makes this a pretty significant 12-hour period for Bronco football. Again, the Pac-12 schedule released, the announcement of the flex week, the final regular season week, and the announcement of the conference championship game being played at a college campus side. Whichever of the two teams in it is that is higher ranked in all the metrics and computer stuff will host. And again, this morning, 10 a.m., the announcement that the Battle of Idaho will resume on 9-6-2031 when the Dog-Ass Vandals travel here to Boise from the Russian-loving part of Idaho, Moscow, to take on the mighty Boise State Broncos on the blue turf. Again, the first game in the series since 2010.